Welcome to our van plan. In this video we're going to be starting one of the most important bits of our build, our ceiling. We've decided that we're going to have a go at creating one of the slatted ceilings where you have the planks kind of running along with a little gap in between each one, which we think looks really great. Got the idea from Van Life Sagas. They make it look super easy, so we're going to give it a go. So we need to think about how we're going to build our ceiling. One of the requirements is maintaining as much height as possible because we're tall. So the floor's in now. We can work out how thick we can afford to make the ceiling and maintain our ability to walk around inside the van. And then we'll work out how we're going to make the ceiling practically, and also what materials we're going to use, and decisions in terms of finish and stained colours and things like that. So let's get started. First thing we need to think about then is how we build up the roof, because we're going to need to use different wood and different material to build up our slatted roof. We're going to insulate, so we've got the Dodomat Superliner here. We're then going to put in 25mm Celotex on top of that, so that comes down below the rib here. So the first thing we need to think about is how we're going to deal with that, because the roof obviously needs to then run along. So we're going to, if we put 12mm ply up here, that definitely clears the insulation behind, and it means we can run the roof from the front to the back. So we'll use 12mm ply battens across, and then the roof is going to be made out of probably something like 5mm ply. Need more hands, like that, and then 18mm wooden planks running lengthways. So basically this then gives us an idea of how low the ceiling will come. We've got 12mm ply, we've got 5mm, this will be plywood, and then we've got 18mm plank, and still clear it pretty much, and potentially with shoes off I'll have even more space. So we know that that combination of materials is going to be what we need to aim for. Time to fit the roof battens now, which will sit in there like that. So I'm going to use the Play-Doh method again, so I'll mark first of all, work out where they're going to end up, and then mark roughly where the roof nuts are, so I can put my Play-Doh on. Play-Doh at the ready. Cool, yep, so if you can see, it's marked nicely on the Play-Doh, so I'm going to pilot hole from this side through, then countersink back that way, and then we'll fit it. One thing I've just remembered, which I keep forgetting, is obviously once you put the wood across here, you're not going to be able to get in and stuff this with insulation. So insulation at the ready, going to try and get that in there first, because these holes will help pull it through, and then we'll fix the batten afterwards. Right, that wasn't very much fun, but I've got as much insulation as possible into here. Again, I don't know how much difference it will make, because obviously there'll be thermal bridging on the metal here, but anyway, it's kind of in there now. So I'm going to probably put some dabs of adhesive in the gaps here, just to give the ply a little bit of a helping hand to stay up, and then we'll screw in. in so well, so I need to try and work out what's going on. First riv nut disaster, the roof batten on the M6 riv nuts, the smaller ones. The riv nut started turning and the screw was stuck in the wood. So we had to do quite a lot of heave-ho and drilling and pulling to try and remove both the screw and the riv nut in one piece, which we managed to do here and here. But this all needs rust treating again. And I think we'll stick with the M8 ones, seem to be fairly decent at either end. And then we'll just get some self-tapping screws to the middle, I think, otherwise this is just going to take forever. So we'll do that now and try and get this one up. We have ceiling battens in place, 1, 2, 3. We're going to do the very front one tomorrow, I think. So yeah, this was a pain with the riv nuts. The M6 riv nuts, I think, are just too small and deform too easily, so they started spinning in the hole. The bolt was halfway in and it became an absolute nightmare, so we managed to get it off with a minor injury, and now we've got the M8 bolts on each end of our battens on the roof, and we've done some countersink screws in between just to hold it up, as well as a bit of glue, and that seems to be holding this nice and strong along the ceiling. So that's really good, really pleased with that now. But for now, I'm going to go for a walk while the sun's still shining and catch up with you tomorrow. The first thing we need to think about and decide is how we're going to cut and fit the 5mm ply that's going to form the basis of our ceiling. So we bought 2 sheets which are 2.4 by 1.2 meters, and we need to ensure that as we cut them and fit them, we're going to reduce the amount of joins that is visible, because that will obviously potentially be seen, although it's going to be painted black, so hopefully not, but also it's going to affect the strength of the ceiling. So what I did was to do a mock-up on the computer of the total ceiling size, put in place the battens at the spacing that we want, and then work out where the joins should be, because we wanted the lengthways joins to be behind the battens so that they weren't visible. And then from that we can decide how wide we need each piece of ply in order to achieve this. What we decided was to have the main piece running from the front of the van back 2.4 meters, and then we'll have a strip to the left and one to the right running to the same distance back, and then we'll cut a smaller piece that will run across the back here and fill in the gap at that point. That means that we need to think about what we're going to do around the fan, and obviously the single large piece of ply will need the fan hole cut out, which is fairly straightforward. But one thing we need to think about is how we finish the fan framing, because the frame around the edge here is not as deep as the 12mm ply battens that we're running across the width of the van. So I think what we'll do is have some 9mm ply to bring this down a little bit to the right to the same height, and then the ceiling can screw into that. I think we'll fix the 9mm ply additional frame to actually the back of the ceiling ply, because I think it'll be easier to do and to fit, and then that will lift up in one single piece and we can screw through both into the main fan frame here. So we're going to get on with that now. We'll cut the ply first and then we'll paint it black. So this is the main piece that's going to run along from the very front of the van back through in the centre of the ceiling. I don't know if you can see on here, I've marked out the cut for the max air fan. So what I'm going to do is use the jigsaw to cut that out, and then this should fit nicely over the top of it. There we go, and it doesn't matter that it's a bit messy around the edges, it's going to be painted, and also the flange is going to fit over like this, so it'll look nice and neat. We've also got the max air shade which will then sit on top of that, so I'm happy with that. Alright, back in the garage because it's chucking down with rain and hail and stuff, which is fantastic. But anyway, got all the pieces cut for the roof now. I'm just in the process of gluing on some 12mm ply to make an additional frame around the fan. So I've got 2 pieces on there and another 2 pieces to go, and then that means when this is pushed up to the roof, this point here will be the same level as the battens we've already got installed in the roof ribs, so it will allow it to bite nicely, and for the max air fan flange piece and the max air shade to fit properly. Now that we've got the 5mm ply all cut and ready to go, what I'm going to do is paint it black, and then that will form a nice background for the pine slats. It seems like everyone is using paint, and particularly dark paint over this, well, it's kind of Easter weekend and a bit after, so I didn't have a lot of choice. In the end I went with this Dulux Easy Care washable and tough rich black. It seems to be, it's 20 times tougher. You can wash it with soap and water, so I feel like it'll provide decent protection on the ply. Not a lot of it's going to be on the show anyway once the battens are in place, so I'm going to roll this onto the ply now, probably a couple of coats, make that look nice and dark and black. So I did 2 coats on the side that's going to be visible, and 1 coat on the other side to give good coverage. It's quite a nice paint, quite thick, so I think that will do okay with the wood. So the next part is to take these oak slats and work out which stain we're going to use and how we're going to apply a consistent finish. They're kind of variable quality, not quite what I was expecting in terms of consistency, but we'll pick out the best ones and then do a sample probably on this piece here because it's a bit broken there, so we'll give that a go next. So here's all our ceiling pine laid out. We've got a little bit more than we need, so I can pick out the best bits, and any that have got maybe inconsistent grain or more knots can be discarded. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, label all up based on the layout of the ceiling so I know what's going to go where, and then I can do any cuts and get on with the sanding. So this is the final selection then. We've got 1 central piece which is a bit wider, and then 8 pieces each side. Now a lot of these are going to be cut down, so they're not going to be this long. And I think these are nearly 4 meters, so it's 3 meters maximum, and then we're going to cut out some for where we're going to have upper cabinets and stuff, so I'll pick the worst parts to cut out. And then we've got, I think 5 left to play with, or if we need to do anything with wood elsewhere in the van. But yeah, these are looking pretty good, I think, actually, and with a bit of sanding and prep they should yield good results. I think the Osmo as well just really works very easily and gets into the wood, and it's very easy to work with, so I think that will help as well. All the cuts are done, and it's now starting to take shape as our ceiling, and the vision is coming to life. We managed to pick some good bits of the pine here, so it's fairly knot free and consistent grain. There are some annoying kind of cracks and like there on a lot of these pieces, which is a bit annoying, but I'm going to try and fill that before we treat it and then sand it back. But yeah, getting excited about this ceiling now. Okay, so we've cut these pieces so they fit nicely, leave a little bit of a gap, and then the shade will be there, and then they'll continue down the back there. This is a complicated piece, so this piece runs front to back, but the frame does overlap. So I'm going to need to work out a way of consistently cutting out round that frame so it looks natural, fits nicely. I'm a bit concerned because my jigsawing skills aren't the best, but we'll see. I need to have a think about the best way to do that. Okay, so I've measured that out. That's where I need to cut to give enough wiggle room, so it doesn't leave a lot of wood that's left over this side, but we need to see how it goes really. Got plenty of spare pine planks, so if this one doesn't work out we'll just have to do another one. So yeah, I think I'll do it on one side, then replicate it for the plank that's going to go over this side, and hopefully we're all good. I did a great job with the jigsaw there, looking really good. So the shade should fit nicely in that area, hopefully, if it all lines up on the roof. So we just got the one to do the other side now, which is a mirror image of this, and then we can get on with staining the wood and then building the ceiling. Choosing the finish for the pine slats we're going to use on the ceiling has been quite challenging. We kind of got a look in mind. We wanted to go for kind of like a light wood effect against the black ply that's going to be in the gaps between. So I've kind of been looking around DIY shops and online to look for the best solution. We narrowed it down to two options. One is Osmo wood wax finish, and the other was Mann's pine wood stain. And then what we did was buy a load of samples, get some little bits of pine wood, and then try those samples on the wood to see what we liked. The Mann's pine wood stain, which is water based, really didn't come out too well, to be honest. It really wasn't the finish we wanted. It was kind of a bit muddy and inconsistent because of the water base, I think. So really what we needed to go for was an oil based solution, so we decided to go for the Osmo wood wax finish, and with various testings of different shades and tints, we opted for the oak. So that's this, kind of one coat and two coat. I don't know if you can see that very clearly, but it's that kind of colour, more of a honey sort of colour, keeping it light but making it look less like pine and more like oak, which will hopefully match our worktop, which we want to do in real wood and in oak as well. So that's the Osmo wood wax finish. It's kind of a transparent finish with a tint. This is number 3164 oak, and we've got 750mm tin. This is like completely out of stock everywhere, so we managed to find it in the last shop in the UK, I think. And then the other thing we spoke to Osmo for some advice. They're really helpful actually, and they suggested using this wood protector clear pre-treatment that it's very thin, and you just wash it over the pine. It soaks in and gives it some additional protection, and then you apply 1 or 2 coats of the wood wax on top of that. We've done the first coat of Osmo wood wax on these. There is a definite colour difference, although it doesn't look like it at first glance, but the finish is quite nice, applied with a brush and then finished with a microfiber cloth, or a lint-free cloth, sorry. But yeah, looking good. So I'm going to do one more coat on these, and we'll see. There are some areas which have these cracks, they're just showing up, so I don't know, we might have to either live with them or see if we can find an alternative piece, but overall I think it'll look good. After months of hard work, we're finally at the stage of assembling our ceiling. We created this table thing from these sawhorses and bits of wood to give as much stability as possible. We've got our wood that's all stained for the slats, and we've got the black plywood to go behind. So now it's time to work out how the hell we assemble it to make sure that everything's all true, straight, perfect and ready to go in the van. So we're marking our centre points on each piece of wood so we can make sure everything's lined up, and also down that end. And then we can put the first piece right in the middle and get that right, and then we can align all the others to that central piece. So we're going to glue and nail the slats in place, but before I do that I just wanted to make sure that the max air fan shade fits based on my previous calculations, which it does. So we know we're good to get this first piece installed. Now we've got the central one in place, that had nothing to really line up against, so we've got that as good as we can. We're going to use these 12mm ply spacers in between each slat, which means we can then glue the back of this one, push it against the fixed one all the way along to make sure we've got the consistent gap as we then fix from underneath with the glue, with the nails, and then we can work our way out. So it should start to get a little bit quicker now, hopefully. Right, so the moment of truth, we've been keeping it covered because the sun's quite strong on it, but we're going to have a look now and see what it looks like all together. Yes. Wow. That's a good job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Woo! Right, we're going to call it a day for today. It's been so hot, I think it's like the hottest day of the year or something, hence the stupid hat. We've been building this in the direct sunlight, which has been a challenge, but we got there. We've glued and nailed the slats to the ply. We're going to need to leave it on the drive overnight and come back to it tomorrow, because we've got to basically drill the holes for the LED puck lights, and probably shave a bit off the front, where the front of the van kind of goes in a bit, get that done, and then the big job of actually getting it in the van, lifted up and fitted into place. So that's coming later this week, hopefully, if the weather stays nice. But for now we're done. We're going to go and grab a drink and sit in the garden in the shade. Back out with the ceiling, hopefully for the final evening, when we're going to try and fit it later on. But two more things to do. One is to drill the holes for the puck lights along the middle piece, and then the second one is to cut out over in that top right corner there, so it fits around the front of the van when we fit it in. So we're going to do those things first, and then on with the big job of actually trying to get it in the van and get it fitted. it's 10 o'clock at night, getting very dark. We brought the light in the van, and we got the ceiling held up by the extendable poles all the way around, and 4 screws in around the fan area to make it hold really, it's holding really tight nicely against the fan frame, so happy with that. So yeah, it's kind of difficult to work out how straight it is from front to back. We need to make sure that this is all centered within the fan and everything, but it's not very maneuverable, so we're going to stick with what it is. And so the next stage is to fit the screws in the gaps all the way along, running left to right across the whole ceiling. So back out in the van, and the next day, it was a late night last night, but the roof's still up, which is pretty good. So we had to take out the very left hand section there because the bit at the front wasn't quite right for some reason. Luckily we had a split in the here, so that piece just came out, so it's kind of modular at that point, so that's all good. And we've managed to screw in around the frame of the fan, 3 on each side at the moment, do a few more in a minute. And we've done screwing in across here in every gap, running across there, and then also on the rear most, which is the kind of there-ish, running across there. So we've got one more run where the string is there to screw in up into the gaps to hold that into the ply above. We are a little bit concerned about the weight that's going to take, but we'll do that first anyway and then see how we do. We might need to put some reinforcement in, but overall looking really good, really pleased with it, so let's crack on. I think I was being overly hopeful last time that I wouldn't need to cut into the pine, but I need a bit more space, so I've just come in here and taken a few mils off the edge of the pine there, which should mean that this cuts around the bit of the van that's sticking out. And should allow us to fit this bit back in.
So we did it, we built our slatted pine roof. It's up in the van and we've done a number of trips. We've been down to Cornwall in it, 4 hours each way, and it's staying solidly attached to the ceiling, which is really a big relief for us because it's blooming heavy. So it was definitely loads of hard work and took a long time and probably delayed the build a little bit because we chose to go down this route, but we think it's well worth it. It looks fantastic. The kind of chunkiness of it, the modern contemporary look with the wood for warmth is exactly what we wanted. So yeah, I don't think we would change it. If we could do anything differently, we might consider 12mm pine slats instead of 18mm, which might save a bit of weight, although you'd lose that kind of chunky look to it. We'd also look at other fixing points that we could use into the van to give it a little bit more stability and security. We obviously used the battens across the ceiling on the ribs, which are all that was available there, but there must be other ways. We are going to fit upper cabinets, one at the front left and one at the rear right, which will help kind of go through the ceiling and secure it even more. But overall, yeah, we're super pleased with it. We wouldn't change it for the world. We really think it sets off the van. Hope you found this video useful and interesting, and if you're going to do the same or have any questions, please put them in the comments below, or go over to our Instagram @ourvanplan, drop us a message and let us know how you're getting on and what you're up to. It's always good to see what everyone else is doing because we feel like overwhelmed at times. It's kind of stressful and tough, but then seeing like the ceiling up in its finished place really makes it all worthwhile. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please consider giving this video a thumbs up if you have enjoyed it or found it useful, and also we'd love you to subscribe and keep up to date with the van build, and we'll see you again soon.